All right, guys, we're going to get started soon. Live on YouTube and Twitter, Judah. Like and share the show, viewers and listeners. Like and share the show. The Thursday edition of the I Love CVille show. Week has moved quickly. Take a look at the screen for today's headlines. I'm going to ask you which headline most intrigues you and why, J-Dubs, like I always do. I'll confirm what we're up and running on. Live on my personal Facebook, Judah. Live on YouTube. You need a question mark on your headline. Why is affordability worsening in CVille City? Because it's a question. We'll talk restaurant news on today's show. Do you think Creed Deeds minds that they pretty much that they ignore? I mean, maybe they're not ignoring him. They certainly did not heed his deadline. On the day, on the August 15th deadline, they then say we need more time.
I think he understands that these people aren't just like sitting around with all the time in the world to draft answers to 46 questions.
Yeah, but he gave them weeks, though.
I think he knows that he got his point across, and they had lawyers to discuss things with, and I think he's.
All right, you save that take.
Okay.
So from my standpoint, a state senator gave the University of Virginia weeks to answer 46 questions. And on the day those 46 questions were due, they said, teacher, I'm not going to turn in my homework. I'm not going to complete the tests. I need an extension. It's the same MO that UVA took with diversity, equity, and inclusion with the Department of Justice and the federal government, where they ignored, they stalled, they ignored, they stalled, and eventually the Department of Justice dropped the effing hammer on them, and Jim Ryan right now is playing tic-tac-toe while drinking a Mai Tai, sitting on his porch in Earlysville. But I want to have that conversation on today's show. It looks like to me that they pretty much gave the one-finger salute to Creed Deeds, and Creed Deeds has to ask himself, is he about to look like a weak politician in front of a lot of people? We'll talk about that on the show. Like and share the show. Like and share the show, viewers and listeners. We're going to rock and roll in T-minus 30 seconds on the program. Judah, which headline most intrigues you and why?
I think it's a good discussion about what Creed Deeds expects and what he thinks is going to happen.
Deep Throat, welcome to the broadcast. John Blair, welcome to the broadcast. Print, radio, and television, welcome to the broadcast. Daily Progress, NBC 29, and CBS 19. Charlottesville Radio Group, I guess Charlottesville Media Group right now, your coverage should be on the Board of Visitors and their stalling of answering Creed Deeds' 46 questions. Let's rock and roll when you're ready, Judah Wickhauer.
Quiet on the set.
Good Thursday afternoon, guys. I'm Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille show. Absolutely great to connect with you through our flagship show, the I Love CVille show, which airs Monday through Friday from 12:30 to 1:30. We want to be the water cooler of conversation and content in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. That's our goal. We do it through a lens or a focus of education, entertainment, and enlightenment. You don't need to agree with us. You don't need to disagree with us. But we want you feeling something during this show, or if you listen and watch the program at your leisure on demand. This program and the I Love CVille network in totality across all platforms is the second most followed brand in this region we call Central Virginia. Across all platforms, there's no one that has more reach and influence than the I Love CVille network except for the University of Virginia. We take that responsibility seriously. We get information passed to us on a daily basis from the elected officials that serve this area, from appointed officials that serve this area, from city leaders, real estate developers, bankers, financiers, attorneys, heads of nonprofits. And in some cases, they may be using the network to get a message out to the community. In some cases, they may be relaying information to us because they're passionate about it. We vet what they say, and we consider the angle they approach us with, and we choose whether or not we're going to pass that information on to you. Trusted sources in 25 years of living, working, and breathing in this community. And I am now 25 years in, ladies and gentlemen, to Charlottesville and Albemarle County. A lot we're going to cover on the program, including the University of Virginia stalling, potentially ignoring, borderline snubbing State Senator Cree Deeds, who had a August 15th deadline for the rector and vice rector of the University of Virginia to answer his very specific and pointed 46 questions. Questions focused on Jim Ryan's resignation and the role the Department of Justice, Donald Trump's administration, and the current rector and vice rector played to get the University of Virginia beleaguered and embattled President Jim Ryan out of Carr's Hill. The day the 46 questions were expected to be answered, 46 questions that were presented to the most influential, one of the most influential boards in the Commonwealth, the folks that were expected to answer these questions, the leader, the rector, and the second leader, the vice rector, they told Cree Deeds, we need an extension. This is synonymous with the English teacher in 11th grade, the history teacher in 10th grade, the Spanish teacher in 12th grade, asking their students, demanding their students to submit a 5-page term paper, offering weeks to do the 5-page term paper. And then when the 5-page term paper was due, the student comes into the classroom, head down, feet shuffling, on bended knee, asking the teacher for an extension. What does this make Cree Deeds look like? Is this the same playbook the Board of Visitors utilized when Donald Trump and the Department of Justice demanded that diversity, equity, and inclusion be eradicated from Thomas Jefferson's University? And if they learned anything from that playbook of stall, ignore, rebrand, stall, snub, it's that X's and O's strategy does not work. We'll talk about that today on the I Love CVille show. I want to give some insight into the search firm that will help the University of Virginia hire its next president, the 10th president in UVA history. The search firm gets paid big-time dollars for this. The dollar amount the University of Virginia will allocate to this third-party search firm is about a third of what a new president will make over the course of 1 year. Jim Ryan's making a million smackaroos. That means if that pay scale continues to the 10th president, that search firm is going to make about $333,000, $350,000, ladies and gentlemen, to help the University of Virginia vet some candidates and interview some people. We'll talk about that today. We have some intel on the Glenmore explosion that absolutely rocked Keswick, the gated community of Glenmore, Charlottesville, and Albemarle County. Judah Wickhauer's pastor, standing 100 feet away from the explosion site. Judah Wickhauer's pastor, 100 feet away, standing from an explosion site that left one person dead, another individual severely burned, and now in the burn unit at Virginia Commonwealth University, in a closely knit neighborhood, ravaged and now rallying around death and destruction. We'll talk on today's program about a report recently issued where 52% of households in the city of Charlottesville cannot afford to live in the city. And I'm going to ask you, the viewer and listener, why is affordability in Charlottesville City worsening? We'll have a conversation about restaurant news. Renovations now underway at Tubby's Restaurant. Remember, Tubby's closed. They actually had a pennies on the dollar live auction for their furniture, fixtures, and equipment some weeks ago, and now remodeling underway for what is going to be the newest brand, the newest iteration of a restaurant on East High Street. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a new Belmont restaurant that is up and running and about to grand open, a steakhouse next to Mas Tapas. Goodness gracious, so much to cover on the program. We'll give some love to John Vermillion and Andrew Vermillion at Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. The Vermillion family are 5 generations strong in Albemarle County. Their business, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, 3 generations strong. Online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com. Located on East High Street, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply is who you call for anything sanitary related, anything swimming pool related, anything vacuum related. They have a mechanic on site. If your vacuum breaks, if your pool robot breaks, it's Charlottesville Sanitary Supply and the Vermillion family, ladies and gentlemen. Judah Wickhauer, studio camera and a 2-shot, a trusted voice in Charlottesville and in Central Virginia, a man who can walk the downtown mall and command the attention of men and women alike, a guy who goes to Jack Brown's to order cold beers and eats, what's your burger of choice? Is it the Greg Brady?
No, I'd have to look at their menu again. It's not the Greg Brady though.
You don't remember the burger you get at Jack Brown's?
It's been a while since I've had.
You don't
a
have to
burger
go
there.
down the rabbit hole of looking. We have other things we got to talk about on today's program. Gosh, we have a loaded program. I want to remind the viewers and listeners that in September, next month, City Council is going to have a conversation on the dais where they potentially could empower either the police department or the Parks and Recs department or someone in City Hall, some group in City Hall, to walk up and down the streets of the city of Charlottesville and to repossess the possessions, repo the possessions of the homeless that are camping and living in spots they should not. In September, Brian Pinkston, Juan Diego Wade, Lloyd Snook, Natalie Ostrin, and Michael Payne will have a conversation on the dais. A conversation that was influenced by an executive order issued by Donald Trump, where local jurisdictions now have more power to, air quotes, manage the homeless and potentially, air quotes, clean up the streets by taking the possessions of the homeless that are sleeping in the vestibules, the storefronts, the benches, areas they should not be sleeping in. City Hall, Charlottesville City Council, do you have the balls to pass any policy as it applies to cleaning up the unsafe streets of Charlottesville City? We're going to be holding you accountable. Which headline most intrigues you and why today on the Rundown?
That would have been a pretty good headline. I think that I'm interested in what Creed Deeds is thinking. I think we differ on how I think we see him responding to this.
You don't think City Council is going to have the balls, the cojones, the stones to pass policy for Parks and Rec or the Charlottesville Police Department to repo the possessions of the houseless as a discouragement tool to clean up streets in Charlottesville that need cleaning up?
I think there is the slimmest of slim chances that something like that goes through City Council.
Very interesting. September, that conversation will be on the docket. We start the show with Senator Creed Deeds. John Blair's got commentary on Creed Deeds. We'll get to that in a matter of moments. He had a deadline of this past Friday, August 15th, where 46 questions were directly presented to the rector and vice rector of one of the most powerful, influential, prestigious boards in the Commonwealth. And the rector, Rachel Sheridan, and the vice rector both scuttlebutted as cahoots members of Jim Ryan's ouster in conjunction with the DOJ. The rector and vice rector, on the day of the deadline, said, Creed Deeds, we need an extension, as if they were 16-year-old children in Chris Joyce's AP US history class, tasked with the responsibility of a 10-page term paper on the Civil War. Instead of 11th grade Jerry Miller in AP US history going into Chris Joyce's AP history class and saying, Mr. Joyce, I need an extension despite the weeks that you gave me to prepare for this paper. I never did that, and I got an A on that term paper. The rector and vice rector, hat in hand, went to Creed Deeds and said, Senator, we need more time. We're not prepared to answer your questions. Is it a good look? Is it a bad look? Is it the same playbook they used with the Department of Justice? Does it make Creed Deeds look weak? Does it make the BOV look like they have something to hide? Where do you want to go?
The same playbook they used with the Department of Justice that they're purportedly working with. I think with all the politics surrounding this, I'm sure Creed Deeds knows that they probably had a lot of discussions with their legal teams, both personal and whatever they have available to the Board of Visitors. And I'm guessing that he understands that he had a big ask despite the amount of time that he gave them. And this is not something that he was just going to get since we're using the example of homework, he wasn't just going to have, a 5-page essay turned in on his desk Friday afternoon, and that would be the end of it.
So University of Virginia students who are giving a syllabus in the beginning of the semester, a syllabus provided by Ken Elzinga, Lou Bloomfield, Larry Sabato, any of the esteemed professors at the University of Virginia. A syllabus that has clear deadlines. On the 1st of October, your 10-page term paper is due. No excuses. Those students are supposed to honor expectations and submit tasked homework. But the Board of Visitors, and specifically Rachel Sheridan and Porter Wilkinson, are able to ignore a state senator who tasked the rector and vice rector, who serve on a board for the betterment of the premier university in the Commonwealth. The rector and vice rector can, on the day of the deadline, ask for an extension, when if students do that, they're giving an F on the assignment.
It's an imperfect metaphor, considering the fact that the students sign up for the class, choose the classes that they want to take, and agree to the to abide by whatever the teacher decides the class is going to entail. Whereas,
Au contraire, mon cher. Au contraire, mon cher. The board members signed up to be on this board.
did they?
They could have said no to Glenn Youngkin's appointment. They are not indentured servants or slaves.
I agree.
In some cases, they politicked to be on the board through donations or through shouldering up, elbowing up, schmoozing with the governor.
So despite all that, you're saying Creed Eads is the teacher here.
Creed Eads is more than the teacher. Creed Eads is state senator.
Yeah.
Creed Eads has got the Constitution.
Okay.
Creed Eads is... Creed Eads is the big D-I-C-K in the room.
Okay.
It's not the rector and vice rector, despite what they think. And if the board didn't realize, or Jim Ryan didn't realize, that ignoring and snubbing and stalling and putting your head in the sand and hoping it goes away, I mean, good God, that backfired. It imploded on UVA.
Yeah.
We learned through reporting from the Cavalier Daily that the University of Virginia, we learn through some commentary from the Jefferson Council, who was highlighting the CVille bubble Twitter account, that the University of Virginia is getting $1.3 billion with a B dollars in federal funding a year. That number, a 2024 number. No wonder Jim Ryan resigned. The Daily Progress initially estimated that at $300 to $400 million a year. You and I were like $300 to $400 million a year from federal funds when it's a $5 billion plus budget per year. That's peanuts. Now we know that number's over $1 billion. Why in God's name would Jim Ryan and the Board of Visitors not, when the DOJ said jump, the BOV should have said how high? When the DOJ said, give me 10 push-ups, the BOV should have told the DOJ, I'll give you 15.
Wait, so is the BOV working with the DOJ or not?
Creed Eads is very much alleging that Rachel Sheridan and Porter Wilkinson, before they became rector and vice rector, while they were a Board of Visitors member, worked in cahoots with the Department of Justice to have Jim Ryan forced out of Cars Hill in the President's Mansion.
Yeah.
Creed Eads is literally saying on the record that I'm speaking with Board of Visitors members past and present, and people extremely close to the DOJ and the President's office, and these 46 questions in the timeline of events that I presented are based on intimate knowledge that people are passing on to me. Creed Eads has been a heavy hitter in Commonwealth political circles for a generation plus. This guy's not going to go to war and investigate unless he's got a hill he's very comfortable standing upon.
Yeah.
And this hill he's standing upon comfortably is rooted in a foundation of answers that he already knows. And when Sheridan and Wilkinson on the day of the deadline say, Creed Eads, we need more time, as if they were 10th graders, 11th graders in Chris Joyce's AP US history class, it offers the impression that those 10th and 11th graders in Chris Joyce's AP US history class are unprepared to turn in the assignment. Or worse, they're hiding something.
I suppose you could see it that way.
That look is horrendous and continues the malfeasance. It continues the arrogance. It continues a trail of cockiness, a trail of unwilling to answer the call of duty when people that are in positions of higher accountability or power are asking things of you. I don't get what's going on with Rachel Sheridan and Porter Wilkinson and the Board of Visitors. What are they hiding? And Creed Eads, your next step is a Freedom of Information Act request. And Creed Eads, your next step is to step on the gas and raise the MPHs over the speed limit. Because if you don't do that, Creed Eads, you look weak and sad. Rachel Sheridan and Porter Wilkinson, they're in the proverbial pickle.
If I had to guess, I would say those 46 questions are being
Vetted and passed along with attorneys,
vetted.
chitter-chatted back and forth with lawyers to provide them the safest answers possible, far from legal exposure? Is that what you're going to say?
Something like that.
Of course.
But yeah, 100%.
And that right there is cause for further investigation.
I mean,
What are they hiding?
I don't know how much more you can investigate that, but
If you don't investigate it anymore, Spamberger gets in office, malfeasance, they're done and they're out. And Sheridan and Wilkinson's legacy
And if you
on
do-
the Board of Visitors will forever be tainted. Like that rug at my house when our first dog, Lucy, constantly went to the bathroom on, and we couldn't keep her from doing it at the end of her life. Tainted and stained. John Blair's got comments. Number 2 in the family. In fairness to Senator Deeds, I would point to Virginia Code Section 30-10. Only the state senator or a committee can subpoena documents or compel testimony from someone. An individual senator does not have that power, so I don't think he's weak if they don't answer his questions. I'll ask John Blair this question. Can Creed Deeds subpoena all the communications with Sheridan and Wilkinson during the resignation, around the time of Jim Ryan's resignation? Can Creed Deeds Freedom of Information Act request every iota of communication with Rachel Sheridan and Porter Wilkinson, with the Department of Justice, with each other, anything tied to Jim Ryan in the last 12 months?
I'm pretty sure he can, because he as much as says that he chose not to this time.
And he said he chose not to because that offers the perception of aggressiveness.
He didn't want to be confrontational.
So Creed Deeds chooses to be the Southern gentleman politician and ask for the answers that he already knows. And if they choose to ignore, he will just FOIA them and get them himself. And if he FOIAs them and gets them himself, doesn't he have the answers to the 46 questions anyway?
Potentially.
Then why not provide it?
Because they're letting their lawyers go over the answers.
Unbelievable.
I mean, do you honestly think that these people are just going to give freely any and all information without any vetting of what the answers may mean in the larger context of what's going on at UVA?
When the senator can already get that information already?
Confrontationally and not...
Is a FOIA confrontationally?
He said it himself.
He's playing a game of politics. Is doing a Freedom of Information Act request confrontational? Or is it...
In his own words, a FOIA request is more confrontational in my view.
That's called politics. I'm going to ask you, Judah Wickower, a question. If someone does a Freedom of Information Act request, do you personally find that confrontational?
Yes.
Wow.
Especially in this situation.
I find that my right, my responsibility.
Well, of course you do.
I find a taxpayer, a student, alumni, an average Joe or an average Karen asking questions to things we should have transparency about our duty.
That's why he's asking the questions.
Go with the FOIA. I don't get the strategy from Sheridan and Wilkinson for stalling.
Okay.
Because he's going to get it anyway.
Yeah. In some form or another.
He's no dummy.
But
How long has Creed Deeds been in office? And
Asking-
viewers and listeners, we'll ask your questions. Go ahead.
asking questions and getting answers is a very different beast than FOIA and than trying to get a FOIA on what may not be, not all that information may be readily available in recorded format.
I totally agree. It's like when our 7-year-old does something wrong, and we ask our 7-year-old, did you do this? And when our 7-year-old admits, when I ask him, and I already know he did it, but I ask him, did you do this? And if he says, and he looks me in the eye, Dad, yes, I did do this, and I'm sorry and I apologize.
So
My punishment with that is much more forgiving than when he looks me in the eye and says, no, Dad, I did not do that. Or no, Dad, I'm not sure if I did that. Or ignores my question.
And so why do you think a FOIA request would be a better way to deal with this situation?
Because the FOIA, if he's Creed Deeds, he gets the answers immediately instead of playing this
Okay, so how do
song and dance.
How do you FOIA request the information about your child?
Creed Deeds can ask for the email correspondence, the meeting correspondence, and set a time frame and said, give me everything tied to this. Someone FOIA'd police camera video footage of Burt Ellis interacting with UVA corner policemen from years ago and used it to stain Burt Ellis and give Youngkin ammunition to get him fired from the Board of Visitors. And that was years ago. The stuff Creed Deeds is asking about is months ago and is tied to the 9th president of the University of Virginia's ouster.
But do you know all of that information is in a format that is FOIA-able?
There's one way to find out.
Yeah.
The FOIA.
Yeah.
Viewers and listeners, comments coming in. Vanessa Parkhill agrees that Creed Deeds has the right to inquire. She asked the question, is responding to the DOJ inquiry equivalent to being in cahoots with the DOJ? Kevin Yancey says this is utter overreach. The DOJ is not the controlling body of the BOV. Do you want to handle a response to Kevin Yancey's statements that the DOJ has no jurisdiction of any Board of Visitors member and should have no influence or control over the BOV? I know what my response would be to that. What's your response?
The DOJ has no... I'd say it's probably true. That doesn't mean that they have or... how does that...
There's a very succinct answer to this.
Okay, go ahead.
The DOJ, Kevin Yancey says, is not the controlling body of the BOV and they have no jurisdiction or influence over the BOV. They should ignore them. What's the response that you say to Kevin Yancey there?
Wait, is...
$1.3 billion from the federal government is the response. It's very succinct. Kevin Yancey, you say the Department of Justice has no influence or control or say over UVA and the BOV. If UVA says that to the federal government would say, do you want $1.3 billion? Your operating budget is $5 billion plus. Do you want 23 or 4% of your operating budget this year? Then give us the effing answers we want.
Wait, is Creed Deeds working for the DOJ?
No, you're missing it.
Okay.
Kevin Yancey is leaving a comment that
I know.
The DOJ should have no influence or say over the BOV, and the BOV should do nothing that the DOJ says. And my response to the man in Waynesboro, the mayor of Waynesboro, Kevin Yancey himself is, you say that to the Trump administration of the DOJ, and you risk $1.3 billion. It's why Jim Ryan resigned.
Mm-hmm.
Logan Wells Claylow, welcome to the broadcast. Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. We'll put them in the feed. Comments coming in faster than I can keep up. What's the extent of the extension that Creed Deeds should offer now without looking weak? How long should Creed Deeds wait before doing the FOIA? Because Creed Deeds, who's been in office for... How long has this man been in office? Jim Hingley, this is right up your alley. This man has been in office since 1992. He's been in office since Deeds won election to the Virginia House of Delegates in 1991 by defeating incumbent Emmert Hanger 57% to 41%. This started a 9-year career in the Virginia House of Delegates. Deeds won a special state Senate selection in 2001. This dude's been in office longer than some of our viewers and listeners have been alive. You don't have that kind of tenure and consistency and sustainability without being able to...
Throw your weight around?
Right. Unbelievable. Next headline, what do you got?
UVA to hire search firm for next president.
I'm going to spend 90 seconds on this one. The University of Virginia, as you put that lower third on screen, is hiring its 10th president. For its last 2 hires, Terry Sullivan and Jim Ryan, the Board of Visitors utilized a search firm, like a headhunter firm, to help the university create a short list of candidates.
Yeah.
They're going to do that again, the University of Virginia. In that third-party search firm, there's a standard compensation method, and it's equivalent to 1/3 of 1 year's salary. If you're making $1 million, $333,000 paid to the search firm. That seems to me like money extremely well spent.
Yeah.
It also is something we, the viewer and listener, us, the Albemarle County, Charlottesville, and Central Virginian, and folks that are alumni or follow the University of Virginia closely should know. A third-party search firm will be hired to hire the 10th president of the University of Virginia, just like a third-party search firm was used to hire the 8th and 9th president of the University of Virginia. And that third-party search firm will be paid 33%, a third of 1 year salary. Next headline, Judah Wickhauer, what do you got?
I've heard that one of my pastors, was standing very near the house when the explosion happened.
We're going to get to that headline in a matter of moments. You're going to lead with the commentary here. Someone that you trust was 100 feet away from the Glenmore explosion that took one life.
Less than 100 feet.
Less than 100 feet away from the explosion, and sent another person to the burn victim at VCU.
And
Neil Williamson, watching the program, he says, Judah Wickhauer, isn't life an imperfect metaphor?
It very much is.
Bill McChesney says Cree deeds should draw Mark Warner and Tim Kaine into the conversation. Vanessa Parkhill pushes back on Kevin Yancey, as Vanessa Parkhill should, because she's a smart person. Federal agencies have the right to inquire when federal money is involved, Kevin Yancey. If the university does not want to be held accountable in that way, they should operate without federal funds like Hillsdale College. Jason Howard, welcome to the broadcast. Print, radio, and television all over this, including print from Richmond. James Watson says, hire Tony Bennett for UVA president, except he would not like all the politics. I had this conversation yesterday with a booster within the athletic department. And this booster within the athletic department said if Tony Elliott does not perform this year, not only will Tony Elliott and his coaching staff be fired, but Carla Williams will be on the chopping block herself.
Wow.
Nearly $30 million the salary cap for players alone on this year's football roster. Nearly $30 million spent. The University of Virginia is a 12.5-point favorite with Coastal Carolina hitting Scott Stadium on August 30th, a 6 o'clock kick. The booster said if Elliott does not perform, he's fired, the staff is fired, and the talk will be Carla Williams' ouster as well, especially with Jim Ryan no longer there to serve as her Teflon and bulletproof vests. The next headline, Judah Wickhauer, is tied to a man that Judah trusts an assistant pastor at Judah's church, a man Judah knows. Judah, the show is yours. Set the stage.
I'm not sure why my trust in him matters, but I've heard that he was...
You're not sure why the trust in someone matters when you're relaying what they have to say to a very large viewing and listening audience?
I haven't heard this from him.
Okay. Wait.
It's secondhand
Does a good
information.
job of setting the stage here.
I mean, I told you at the very start that I heard that he was standing very
You heard
close
this
to-
from whom?
From my parents.
Your parents heard this from whom?
I would imagine from... they heard it from him.
So the assistant pastor tells your mom and dad this story.
Something like that.
The assistant pastor tells your mom and dad this story about an explosion in Glenmore that has rocked our community. And now you are passing along the information to thousands of people on the show.
He was knocked off his feet.
How close was he to the explosion site?
I don't have an exact measurement. The way it was explained to me is that he said from here to, and they were at church when he was telling them this. My dad said the measurement he gave was about 60 feet, give or take, and he was there when it happened. He was knocked off his feet. Getting up, he went and called out for either of the two people who were going into the residence, and heard the voice of the man, helped uncover him, pull him out. As the papers have reported, the fire department was there within 4 minutes. So I believe that he was, helping this guy out of the rubble when they arrived. And it sounds to me like, with how close he was, everybody in that neighborhood was extremely blessed.